What if the biggest thing holding your business back isn't your marketing strategy, your operations, or even your team, but your numbers? Too often, scaling CEOs fly blind when it comes to their finances. We make gut decisions based on cash flow, high and lows, without a clear understanding of what's driving growth or stalling progress. If that sounds familiar, you are not alone. But what if you could take control of your finances and use them as a powerful tool to build the life you've envisioned? Today, we are sitting down with Susan Bryant, a CPA and certified tax planner with over 20 years of experiences, helping small businesses maximize profits, minimize taxes, and create entrepreneurial wealth. In this episode, Susan will show us how aligning your financial plan with your vision can transform your business into the ultimate vehicle for your dreams. From uncovering the key metrics every CEO should track to knowing when and who to hire for your financial team, we're diving into everything you need to know to achieve financial clarity and ultimately freedom. This is the Succeeding Small podcast, and we are on a mission to turn your entrepreneurial dream into a small business success story. We give you the strategies and insights from business owners and topic experts who are invested in your success. Leadership, operations, finance, marketing, growth. These are all topics we need to know as service-based businesses as we scale to the next level. Consider this your masterclass for small business success. Get ready for tactical business strategy and authentic conversations about scaling and entrepreneurship. We tackle it all to help you achieve your business's full potential. Ready to be challenged and inspired? Let's succeed small. Susan, I am so excited to have you on the Succeeding Small podcast. We were just talking a little bit before we hit the record button about how just instrumental understanding your finances are for a scaling, succeeding small business. You want to make sure that you have that financial success vision in mind and that you continue to put the infrastructure in place to be able to track those finances, to understand them, to have the team behind you to support those financial goals. And so having you being in this seat that you are coming on the podcast, I'm so excited for the wealth of knowledge that you have. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It is a joy and privilege to be here.
Yes. So please introduce yourself. I would love to know more about you and just the authority that you bring into this wonderful space.
My name is Susan Bryant. I'm a CPA and I'm a certified tax strategist. I'm one of 50 in the world who have that designation. I'm currently in pursuit of a certified wealth strategist designation, and I'm also a registered investment advisor representative. I have been working with small businesses on the public accounting side for the entirety of my career. So I am uniquely positioned, I think, to understand the challenges. I've seen them from startup to sale. There are so many things. Sometimes I feel very sad for business owners that they have so many things that they have to learn. It is overwhelming. And yet I am inspired by the fact that so many entrepreneurs start and they just get going. And it really shows the level of courage that they have to really fulfill their dreams. And one of the things that I am on a personal mission to do is to help support business owners and know that they have the resources to figure out the financial piece and that the information is available. There are new and different ways to think about how to get them from point A to point B.
I love that. I love the unique approach that you bring and the care that you put in the small business sector. It's a very unique space and often gets left behind because there's all of these financial people talking about corporate tax strategies and everything that you need to do and starting your business with millions of dollars in your pocket. And that's just not the case for a lot of small businesses. They are starting this with a passion and a fire in their heart, and they go and make something out of absolutely nothing and have to get those building blocks in place to learn what it means to be a successful business, to teach themselves finance, to teach themselves things like HR and operations and marketing. They have to wear all the hats in order to be a successful small business. So that's what I love about this podcast. Very biased, of course, by nature, but I'm just so excited to be able to have you and talk about those kind of financial aspirations. So, Susan, I'd love to take this as a very high level conversation about finance. I would love to stick in the concept of what it means to be successful from a financial perspective and how can we as scaling small businesses set financial goals? What is your recommendation? And how does that blend between personal financial goals and business financial goals?
I think the starting point is to figure out what you really want and where you're really going. Most of the time, what I find is that business owners, they create a really nice job for themselves and they get on the hamster wheel. And I think Napoleon Hill refers to it as the law of hypnotic rhythm. You're doing the same thing over and over again. And you don't necessarily stop to think what could get me out of this. And the one thing that will is setting a very clear and definite purpose of where it is you want to be. So my recommendation first off is to really get clear on what it is you want. How much money do you need to get what you want? How do you want to live? Clarity around all of those goals. And once you have that, then you can really create a plan to get there. This is like opening your Apple Maps. The first thing you do is you put in your destination and then you hit the green go button and it tells you all the steps to get there. So that is really the piece where I find business owners don't have enough clarity. What do you really need and what do you want? And how does the business a vehicle to help you get there? So I would start with that. Spend a lot of time in that area. I gave a presentation this past weekend to a group of pediatricians about this. And one of the stories I love to tell is I had a couple of engineers who were lifelong employees, right? Good, loyal, faithful corporate employees come to me and they had squirreled away millions of dollars. And they were very worried about their upcoming tax bill, of course. But the biggest issue that they had was not whether they could pay the taxes, it's what else were they going to do with all this money? If you've got money and you have no dream, you have no purpose. So you really have to figure out what it is you're going to do when you get there. If you've got clarity around, if I'm going to use this money to start a private equity fund, buy commercial real estate, start a nonprofit, start a private foundation, mentor kids, help, whatever that is, that's what you have to be in pursuit of. It helps so much for business owners to get a lot of clarity around what it is that they're doing this for and who they're doing it for and why they're doing it and being focused on that consistently.
I think the concept of just money mindset in general is really tough for entrepreneurs, especially when they started this from the passion point of things. They love what they do, they love their community, they love their families, and get on that hamster wheel and just keep going. And then they realize, how is this my life? How did I get here? What is
Yeah.
next? What does that ultimate vision look like? And I like pairing that with the concept of money because having that dream plus the means to do so, those two things have to go hand in hand for you to be able to truly live out the life that you want and make that happen for yourself. You said earlier that the business can be a vehicle to help you get to that success. I love that phrase. Talk to me more about that, about how your business can support you in those endeavors and what are some things that you need to do, some infrastructure you need to build inside your business to allow that to happen.
There's a few things. The first thing is you need to get a comprehensive picture of where you're at right now financially. So I always recommend that my clients start with putting together a personal financial statement, like a net to calculate your net worth. What is it you owe? What is it you own? So it's a starting point. It's a baseline of where you are right now. And as you begin crafting where it is you want to go and all the different things that may make up that future balance sheet, is you can track it and you can see your actionable progress. So I would say a starting point is what do you have right now? Second point is if you've got a business that is accumulating a certain amount of revenue every year and its value is increasing, go have a valuation done or maybe work with your financial advisor. Sometimes they have relationships with people within their firm or ancillary to their firm who will do a valuation at a very low cost. So you can actually see what is it that is happening in my business that I'm doing right or that I'm doing wrong and what could make it more valuable. It helps to work with maybe a certified exit planning advisor to figure out maybe what are those specific actionable steps that I could be doing in order to drive the value further up. And at what point do I want to exit from that business? I believe that the saying goes like, there's going to be an exit for all business owners, right? It will transition somehow. Wouldn't you want to be intentional about how that happens? Go through a transaction prep list. What are the things that you want to work on this year that get you to an increased valuation, that get you closer to that exit that makes sense for you. The other thing that I recommend is when you were thinking about our net worth and the business is if there's any way to funnel money outside of the business. So I know every business owner wants to pour like it's like blood, sweat, and tears and every last dime into the business. And sometimes that doesn't make sense for the person. Sometimes it makes sense to build worth, a net worth that's not just in the business and value that's just in the business, but also outside of it. So are you optimizing your 401k? Building an emergency cash reserve? Is what kind of liquidity do you have? Are you taking advantage of what else is happening in the stock market and bond markets and other things to create a more diversified portfolio, not just the business?
Mm. At what point in a small business owner's journey should they stop pouring everything back into their business to be able to keep things going, like you were just talking about, and then start making that transition into diversifying their portfolio? What are the signals to be able to start doing that? When would you recommend people do that? And how do they make that decision? Because that can be really tough if they know, hey, I need to hire another person. I need another contractor. I need another employee. That's very tangible of an investment to be able to do. So, what piece of advice, how would you guide somebody in making those decisions on where to allocate their money?
I think it's about creating a forecast. So many times what I find is, and these same pediatricians that I spoke to last weekend, I asked everybody, hey, do you have a forecast? And no one raises their hand, right? Your job as a business owner is to see further into the future, especially as you're getting elevated into this more executive level position, right? Your job is to help everyone else see further into the future. And so you do that by creating a forecast that can allow you to more quickly determine maybe what those scenarios are. If I do hire this person, what does that look like? If I do start this new, perhaps service line or product line or whatever it is, how much is that going to cost? What is my ROI on that? How does it advance my business in the direction that I want to go? I think it starts with a forecast and getting clarity around what the return is on those specific elements that you may want to invest. And if the return is less than if you put the money someplace else, then that's when you have really tough decisions to make. But most business owners aren't going through that process. They think, oh, if I put it in my business, then it's surely going to get me a bigger return. Are you sure? If you haven't done the math, then you really don't have a reliable way to make that determination. And I would say the more sophisticated the business becomes, the more sophisticated the decision making needs to become. And that means we're not basing it on gut anymore or what the bank balance is, but we're actually basing it upon assumptions that are logical based on history, but considering the future and that get integrated into a regimented forecast for the multitude of decision makers in the business to begin leaning upon.
I love that. Let's talk about more of the specifics of what would go into that forecast. What should people be, what metrics should people be tracking, and how should they be doing that?
For starters, it's a sophisticated sales forecast. Of course, we all know that the top line sales is the lifeblood of the company, and you don't get anything else. Cash doesn't come if we don't sell something. So I think that is the number one mistake that most business owners make is that they don't have enough granularity around understanding where sales come from, how they should be recurring or could be recurring, really getting inventive and creative about creating value around revenue and delineating that further and understanding all of the assumptions about how it can be created within the organization. Mastering the sales forecast is step number one. It has to be done. Beyond that, all the variable costs and understanding whether that's payroll or benefits or specific direct costs, all those getting delineated and understanding how their purchasing power could be amplified. Running lean also helps. If this is, Madeline, you had mentioned this is your podcast is really geared towards service-based businesses. One of the biggest things that can be done, and there is a book called The Boutique written by Greg Alexander. It's an amazing book for service-based businesses, especially professional services firms. But he talks a lot in that book about disconnecting headcount from top-line revenue growth. And in a service-based business, that's the key to dropping more profit to the bottom line. So understanding how we can leverage staff effectively without having to create more strain on those resources, but amplify top line revenue. That just takes a sophisticated understanding of how the organization can work. And what can you tack on, upsell? You got to get creative here. I call this like going full Willy Wonka on your business, right? Like you figure out what your everlasting gobstopper is and then sell the heck out of it.
I love this. I just did a podcast about the concept of scale, of what it means and being able to grow without having to grow your resources. So, how are you able to get more revenue, get more out of your bottom line, get more profit margin without necessarily having to exponentially grow your resources behind you? So, how can you be that creative engineer inside of your company to be able to make those tiny little tweaks where you can get more out of what you have, to be able to optimize and continue to take that growth? That way it's not just this slow little linear progression, but it's actually a leap onto something totally different.
And it's value. There's a video of Warren Buffett where he talks about you just have to show up. You have to become obsessed with delighting your customers. And that can show up in so many different ways. It is experiences, people being emotionally connected to you. So now you have great loyalty. You talked about communities before. There's a lot of different things you can do. I think we can all agree recurring revenue. Everyone loves recurring revenue. It stabilizes cash flow. It makes your just everything a lot easier in your business. So, what could you be doing to amplify that? How do you grow that particular part of your business? Car dealerships have been doing this for years, right? Extended warranties, service contracts. I mean, why are those things not applicable now? Anytime you go to buy to Amazon, you go on Amazon and you buy like a vacuum cleaner. Do you want to buy an extended warranty? Clearly, there is signaling happening that all of these types of add-on services, they generate value, not only for the customer, of course, but also for the business owner.
Okay, I have a question for you. And I've been talking with a couple people around that, is really understanding what it is you're selling and how you actually make money off of what you are selling. So it's not just, you're not just selling a service for $1,000. You're not just selling something for 5,000. You're not selling something for $55 a month, but like really understanding the concept of the cost of goods sold and like how do you factor in what goes into that revenue item and putting that in your financial plan that way, because that revenue is not just pure gold in your pocket. You do pay for it. And so really breaking down those service items. So what is your recommendation for understanding that concept?
It begins with having a really solid set of financial statements, right? Because it's not just those direct costs, but then it's this overhead rate, if you will. What are all the other fixed costs that you have to incur? If you've got brick and mortar, it's a lot different than if you operate virtually. If you have a high advertising marketing spend versus people who are just getting a referral based business. So you really have to understand not only those direct costs, but also that overhead rate that needs to be applied to figuring out what revenue is profitable and what isn't. And there's a saying, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. I don't know if you've probably heard this. Yes, a bunch of times, right? So you're right. You have to go through and you have to analyze every specific product and you have to understand the strategy of why you have that. Sometimes it's okay. People call this loss leaders. Sometimes it's okay to have those types of things, but you have to know what it is. It's luring people in to get them to buy in terms of the higher margin services. Or should you just abandon those? Do you really want to run $100 million company to make $1? That sounds like a lot of work. It'd be better to run a $3 million company and make $1 million. Sure. So I think sometimes we have to reevaluate perhaps why it is we're doing what we're doing. So maybe this goes back to that hamster wheel. That's just how we've done it. So what if we didn't have that product? Oh my gosh. I've worked with other accountants who get scared about trying to lop off revenue because sometimes cutting something, there's a lot of fear around revenue being decreased. But if your profitability goes up, that's a lot more satisfying in the long run. So yes, making sure you have clear financials that are delineated properly. If you need to do job costing, product analysis, you got to go through that process on a regular basis and understand the relationship between what it is you're selling.
I love that. Yeah, that is something that I had to do within my own business when we were going through that scale jump and realized that we were not profitable in the slightest. And so we took a look at all of our service offerings. And one of our biggest problems was a concept of scope. We were doing way too much work for what we were getting compensated for. And until we started looking at our service offerings and comparing that between what does it actually take to deliver that work, we realized that we were sometimes going out of scope by 400% was one of them. Like wild. We were
Yeah.
working
Yeah.
400% more than what we were getting paid, which was just mind blowing. So we ended up looking at that service and saying, we don't even like doing this. We don't like the type of customers it attracts. This isn't our specialty. We just offered this on a whim just because we were growing and we felt, okay, somebody needs it. I'm going to create the service for it. And so it just became a part of our business that was literally just a leech on our bottom line and our profitability. And so cutting that was able to save us on many different fronts. Yes, we lost that revenue because we ended up telling the people that we were discontinuing the service. So we lost from that perspective, but what we ended up gaining was so much better. We gained a profitable business model, which is priceless.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think this sort of harkens back to that kind of concept of the riches are in the niches. But I don't necessarily mean that from the standpoint of it has to be industry specific. It's the definiteness of purpose and the intentionality around something and become an expert at that thing and letting all the other noise go away. When you can really refine how great you are at something and you become the leader at it, that's why that concept exists, right? If you are the subject matter expert, if you are the specialist, if your value increases immensely. You are the go-to person. People are going to go to you for that. And catering to that specific group of people it's become a specialist from a medical standpoint, right? You solve one specific problem and that problem will come up and people will come to you because you are the person who can solve it in that particular way. And there's only one of your business. That's it. You are unique, different. Your approach, your experience, your history, your knowledge, all of those things allows you to literally be without any competition. And that's how you have to look at it. I'm developing something that way. There is no competition, only us in the marketplace. And sell it, advertise it, and deliver it in that fashion.
Beautiful. I love that. Before we go, I want to take a moment to talk about something crucial for every local business, your Google business profile. Managing your Google business profile can be overwhelming and time-consuming, whether it's setting it up correctly or troubleshooting verification issues. And if it's not done right, you're missing out on potential customers who can't find you online. That's why we've put together a free Google Business Profile Guide. This guide is designed to help you set up and manage your profile effortlessly, ensuring you attract more local customers. Inside, you'll find step-by-step instructions from our experts on creating and optimizing your profile, tips for troubleshooting common issues like verification and suspension, strategies for making your profile stand out, and a checklist to help you keep on track of everything that you need to do to have a live Google Business Profile. Don't let a poorly managed Google Business Profile hold your business back. Download our free guide today under succeedingsmall.co/GBP guide. That's GBP guide, all one word. You just listened to another episode of the Succeeding Small podcast. I hope you had a pen to jot down all the actionable strategies we just shared. If not, no worries. We have every episode on our website, including transcripts, YouTube recordings, and plenty of small business resources. So visit the show notes and check out the incredible archive of content created for you and your scaling small business. We are truly invested in your success, and we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on social to request topics you want to hear, or leave us a review wherever you listen. You're one step closer to being that small business success story.